experience Week 8 injury report and ownership projections in chalk plays and pivot plays for the Week 8 DraftKings Millionaire Maker. But first, let me tell you, you got to tune in to Facebook Live and YouTube Live, both DraftKings pages, Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I will be live at Gillette Stadium, being undercursed by Tim Undercust. Sitting across from me, we're going to be taking your questions live, breaking everything down, probably arguing about candy corn. If you haven't checked out Tim's Halloween rankings yet for candy, they're abysmal, but they are a part of the Thursday show if you want to go to the YouTube page or check that out, or just harass Tim on Twitter because it's truly ludicrous. He might not even be allowed in the country, so we'll see how Sunday goes. But 10:30 a.m. live from Gillette Stadium. Bring your questions. If you're going to be around or going to the game, come a bit early and throw candy corn at Tim and see how he likes it. Anyway, let's get into the injuries for the week. Geoff Ulrich coming up a little bit later on, by the way. Guys that are going to play this week, at least as of Friday, this is how it stands right now. Danny Amendola says he's good to go with his knee injury. Jameis Winston's going to play with his shoulder. Melvin Gordon's foot, not going to cause a problem. Luke Kuechly and Juju Smith-Schuster have both passed concussion protocol, so that's good news. They're probably going to be on the field this weekend. That's a great boon for the Carolina Panthers defense. Golden Tate, after looking like he would not be playing for the longest time, he's going to be playing Sunday night. At least it appears that way. Kenny Golladay not going to play, so that's a bit of a role reversal. We would have expected Golladay to be back. I don't love Tate this week in terms of fantasy lineup. The Steelers do an excellent job of shutting down wide receivers, and I don't know how close to 100% Golden Tate is going to be. All the receivers in that game are a bit of a fade for me. Maybe give an uptick to Theo Riddick in this spot. Maybe he can capitalize on some of the routes that Golden Tate would normally run. Like, Tate might not even make it through the game. The Pittsburgh defense is very physical, and one bad hit to that shoulder, and boom, he gone. So watch out with Golden Tate. Be very pensive. You might have to play him because you have no one else, but I would go out of my way to try to not play him. Check out my rankings on dkplaybook.com, and you can see where he falls. Other guys that are probably going to play: Ed Dickson with his ankle. Stefan Diggs in his groin got in 2 full days of practice on Thursday and Friday. He's over in London, so we're going to know about him very early in the week. I still have Thielen rated much higher than I do Diggs this week. I always like Diggs when he gets in every day of full practice and he doesn't miss any days, which he did earlier in the week. He tends to have a track record of underperforming in those spots, but he's still a top 25 option for me this week at receiver. Thielen is a top 15 option. And, prove me wrong, Stefan Diggs. Come out and have yourself a big game. I have a few lineups that could use it, but in terms of playing, just really putting all your trust in them, I would be a bit more pensive about that. Other guys right now: Josh Norman returns to the Washington defense to shut down Des Bryant with his rib injury. Marquise Goodwin's back, kept him out Thursday, but he practiced full on Friday. He's going to be back, and it looks like Trent Williams could end up playing for the Skins. We'll end up seeing they're down a bunch of offensive linemen. They really need him to get going and be in there to avoid a Dallas pass rush, which isn't so bad. Guys that are doubtful to play in Week 8, we have Emmanuel Sanders with his ankle injury, and to make that twofold terrible, they play Monday night. So we're just, any available options that you have to replace Emmanuel Sanders, you're not going to have unless it's Benny Fowler in that matchup, maybe Demarcus Robinson as alternatives. I would go out of my way to try to probably not play those guys. Benny Fowler's not a terrible option. Robinson's been playing more snaps. There is potential for them, but not what you would get out of Emmanuel Sanders. Expect not to have him this week. Ditto for CJ Prosite. Ditto for Jason McCourty on the Browns defense. Another good boon for Stefan Diggs in that spot. Michael Floyd probably not going to play. Sam Bradford probably not going to play. How about guys that are out for Week 8? Vance McDonald not going to play with a knee injury. Jesse James and Xavier Grimble will step into the tight end spot for the Steelers. Jesse James becomes, I don't want to say an attractive tight end streaming option this week, but much better than he did a day ago because Vance McDonald isn't going to play anymore. So, there's always touchdown upside when it comes to Jesse James in that spot if you're really desperate. But there's a lot of decent tight end streamers this week. Again, if you go up to dkplaybook.com, you can find out all the tight ends that I like in those spots. Marcus Wheaton not going to play for the Bears with a groin injury. Charles Clay's knee is going to keep him out. It means the Irish assassin, Nick O'Leary, is going to take over that spot for him. Logan Thomas probably not going to play either for the Bills, so even better for O'Leary. Like I mentioned, Kenny Golladay is going to miss time with his hamstring. Martavis Bryant is healthy, but he ain't playing, so get him out of your lineup. Uptick to Juju Smith-Schuster, who I did mention past concussion protocol. He's going to play. John Ross is going to play for the Cincinnati Bengals. Tyler Boyd, however, will not be playing with a knee injury. And that's your injury report. Not much happening this week, unlike last week. So hopefully, even some of these smaller names, you probably weren't going to play them anyway, and there isn't much to affect anything. Stefan Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders would be the two biggest ones for me. And fortunately, we're going to know first thing about Stefan Diggs, whether he's playing or not, and you should just plan on not having Emmanuel Sanders in your lineup this week. That was the injury report. Up next, DraftKings ownership for the Millionaire Maker and some pivot plays for Week 8 with Geoff Ulrich. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Pat Mayo Experience, digging into the FanShare Sports tags for the Sunday Week 8 main slate. So no Sunday Netter, no Monday Netter, no London game, just the actual Millionaire Maker slate to see if we can project out some ownership here. Joining me via Skype, it is Geoff Ulrich of DKTV. What's going on, dude?
Not too much. My wife bought Halloween candy early this week, and I've eaten half of it, so that's pretty good.
Was it all candy corn? Was that where you're going?
No candy corn, no.
But how could you pass on the best Halloween candy?
Yeah, I mean, if she had bought home candy corn or those horrible pumpkin things that people actually call candy, I wouldn't have had any.
Divorce. I think that's grounds for divorce.
Divorce, yeah.
I mean, you're a lawyer. You can figure that out pretty quickly, I'm pretty sure.
Instance.
Are you a divorce attorney?
I'm a nothing attorney. I do have a law degree, but yeah, the practice of law is not being done by me.
Well, I'm going to say, if she had brought home candy corn, it probably would have been a good time to get back in the game.
Yeah, it could have been, definitely.
All right, let's talk running backs. If we go to the top of the FanShare Sports tags this week, it is a player that you really like, and I'm a bit iffy on, but everyone wants to attack this Cincinnati-Indianapolis game, and Joe Mixon comes in at number 1 on the FanShare tags. Not even just the most tags overall, the most start tags. He also has a bunch of sit tags. One of those could be from me because I'm kind of torn on it, but it's, most starts by far. He's $4,700. He's the cheap quarterback that everyone is paying down for. But you and I talked about this on DKTV on the matchups breakdown Thursday night. It's just, I'm not sure that he is guaranteed to get 20 touches in this game. If he ended up with the fewest snaps of all the Cincinnati running backs, I'm not going to be stunned. Now, if you guarantee me that he gets 15 to 18 touches, he's probably an absolute smash play. And I know that's why people are playing him. But I feel like people aren't talking about the downside that could go with Joe Mixon here.
Yeah, it's not a lock. I've tried to tell people that a little bit. As much as I like Joe Mixon in the spot, it's absolutely not a lock. I mean, his coach is insane, so that's going against him. He mouthed off to his coach at the start of last week, so right off the bat, I'm expecting Jeremy Hill to start this game. Don't be shocked when you don't see Joe Mixon out there in the first series. He's probably not going to be out there. So if Jeremy Hill does get going at the start, that's going to be bad news. Now, the upside, and the reason I'm still going to play him, he's only $4,700. He works in the pass game. He gets us 12 or 15 points. It's not like the end of the world. So I feel like of all the Cincinnati skill players, Joe Mixon is probably the most sort of blowout matchup proof because of his work in both areas, because he's a little bit blowout proof. Like I said, he could get some late touches and make up for it then. So 4,700, I'm still in on him. The guy's got the most skill. But absolutely, Pat, you're right. It's not a guaranteed spot. And I think that's why you're seeing ownership not quite going to be like 25%. I think it might even creep under 20%, the projections I'm seeing. So he's going to be highly owned, but I don't think it's going to be so bad that he'll be the most popular running back.
Well, I guess the only other guy down in that range that people seem to be turning to, he comes in number 4 in the running back start tags. It's Rocket Richard. He's $4,300, and I think I actually prefer that. A, he's cheaper, so he has to do less in order to kind of hit a 3x if you're playing him in cash games, and he does allow you to spend up just marginally more, not a ton more, obviously. They're pretty close in salary, but at least I know that he only has one guy to fend off, and that regardless of what happens, he's probably going to play at least half the snaps anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right about, I think he's guaranteed like at least 40, probably 50% of the snaps. And if he gets going early, you might even see more, right? So the matchup isn't as good, obviously. Buffalo's probably a lot better against the run than Indianapolis for sure. That being said, he's going to be lower owned. He's 4,300. Definitely in play for me for GPPs. I'll throw out another name. I like Marlon Mack from Indy too on the other side of that Cincinnati game, working more in the pass game for Indy. Again, Indianapolis projected to be down late, so he played more snaps than Frank Gore last week. Looks really good when they give him the ball. It's another situation where he might not get enough snaps because the coach is a little bit out to lunch, but I still think for GPPs, Marlon Mack will be a nice low-owned play.
Yeah, I didn't even really consider Marlon Mack, to be perfectly honest with you. And despite the fact that I wrote him up on Monday, made him my #1 waiver wire pickup, and I was like, oh, this is a terrible spot. But you're right. If they're going to be like 11-point underdogs in this game, Mack played basically every passing snap he could last week. And without Robert Turbin around, that makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe he ends up with like 5-6 receptions here. I know it's probably more of a GPP play, although the type of numbers that he might put up might end up looking like cash stats, but maybe he breaks one out and you get super lucky. Like, the only two other players in like the $4,000 range I really like. I really like James White as a cash running back at 4,900. Like, I would prefer that over Joe Mixon because I really feel like there is a lot of value in his safety. He's scored at least 13 DraftKings points 3 of the past 4 weeks. It's a game where Brady's going to have to get the ball out super quickly. I just think that floor is a lot safer. Now, obviously, if Mixon ends up playing 70% of the snaps, he blows him out of the water because he probably finds the end zone. James White probably not going to get into the end zone. And the only other one is Wendell Smallwood at $4,900, but he's splitting with Blunt, and if I run down the entire top 10 when it comes to the tags, Mixon's #1, Shady's #2, Mark Ingram's #3, and then it's Jalen Richard and LeGarrette Blunt. Then you got Zeke, Melvin Gordon, Lev Bell and the Sunday Nighters, so don't worry about him, Chris Thompson and Christian McCaffrey. Like, I think I would rather have, just objectively speaking, Wendell Smallwood than LeGarrette Blunt in a full-point PPR. I don't get why people are so high on Blunt. Is it because they're massive favorites, and anytime there's a massive favorite situation with LeGarrette Blunt that people just think you need to play him?
I think that's it. I mean, his name always comes up in these situations where, they're going to score 4 times and they're all going to be Blunt. It could happen, but it's not like it's guaranteed to happen. So LeGarrette Blunt does get involved in the pass game. He's maxing out at like 14, 15 touches a game, even in games that the Eagles have been up a lot. So I think you're right. I mean, I would prefer Smallwood as well. Doug Peterson likes to mix and match too. I mean, it's not like it's guaranteed to just be all LeGarrette Blunt if they get up. So you could definitely you even see Corey Clement in there a bit. So I would prefer Smallwood with the PPR upside as well. He's definitely a GPP play for me. I like the James White call. The more you look at that San Diego game, I think San Diego might win that game.
Are you just refusing to call them Los Angeles? Because this is like the 5th show we've done together where you're just San Diego, 100%.
Yeah, it takes me like a year to adjust to these things. So by this time next year in the NFL season, I'll have adjusted. But yeah, no. I also think it's stupid that they're in LA. But anyways, that's like a bigger conversation. Anyways, I think the LA Chargers of San Diego, or formerly of San Diego, could win that game. But I like the James White call for the reasons you said. I mean, Los Angeles is really good against the wide receivers. They got a great pass rush. Like you said, Brady's going to have to get the ball out. Maybe James White sees like 10 receptions in this game. Could happen.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of almost like the Saints game earlier in the year. That's really the only comp that we have so far, weirdly enough, and the Chargers defense is better than the Saints defense, but the Saints bring an incredible pass rush, and they were able to kind of, get Brady messing around a little bit, have to get the ball out very quickly, and, in that game, James White absolutely lit it up, and it's the same thing we saw in the Super Bowl last year was, when Atlanta actually had a pass rush that was pretty good, they could kind of get to Brady. He had to get the ball out quickly, and that's what we saw again with James White. It just, all the past instances that I can remember of James White going off and putting up these 8-9 catch games kind of speak to the defensive line on the other side and Brady not wanting to get mangled every single drop back. So I like James White for that spot. He's probably my favorite play under $5,000, cash or GPP. It's not to say that James White can't score a touchdown. He's just likely not to, but he might do enough of that salary anyway that it doesn't make a difference. He could get it gets to the point with him where, I mean, he's not going to get 3x just based off reception points alone, but he could be like 8 for 80 at one point, and boom, you're already above 3x, and anything he does above that is just gravy. So when we think about LeGarrette Blunt versus Wendell Smallwood, just looking back to Wednesday night, I mean, the Eagles were up in that game for the most part, and LeGarrette Blunt played 38% of the snaps, Smallwood 37% of the snaps, and Clement 18% of the snaps. Now they're playing the Niners, who just run a very high-pace offense, so just even if you project those out a little bit, I know 38%, 37% doesn't sound very good. You would prefer someone get like 50%, but I don't know. You could almost let's see, 25 snaps for Blunt, 24 for Smallwood. You can almost bump them up to probably, let's say the split stays the same, and they're around 30 each. I think if you get Smallwood on the field 30 times, that he's going to more than return his value. And frankly, he's been a better red zone runner than LeGarrette Blunt this year, which no one seems to talk about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he's looked good the last couple weeks that he's been in there. He looked good to me against Washington. So like I said, I'm definitely on board with that. If I'm going to play, like a stack of that game, I'm probably going to have Smallwood, maybe like a Wentz Smallwood kind of stack and hope for the passing touchdown. But for me, he's the preferred play in there too. Just looking here if there's any other cheap running backs I want to talk about, but I think that's pretty much it. There are a lot of guys under 5K. So again, come back to Joe Mixon. Like if you're not sold on it or you just want to go another way or you just need someone cheaper, I mean, I think you can avoid him this week. Like I said, though, I do feel like he's got a decent floor, even though the touches might not be there. So there's a lot of decisions you're going to have to make at a sub 5K for running backs, though.
All right, let's switch to receivers and try to figure out who's going to be the highest owned of that bunch. If we go from 1 down to 10, AJ Green comes in with by far the most start tags. He has 44 start tags. Number 2, Nelson Aguilar has 29. So everyone's using AJ Green. Completely understand it. I get it. Josh Doctson at $3,900 is third with $2,800. Keenan Allen, Kelvin Benjamin, Michael Crabtree, Juju Smith-Schuster at $4,000. Julio Jones at $84. Mohamed Sanu at $49. And Alshon Jeffrey at $6,700. I was surprised to see Doctson come in so high. I get the savings that you get for him in that area, but I would prefer Marquise Goodwin at a similar price. I prefer Deontay Thompson and his upside at like 1/20th the ownership, and he's even cheaper. Like, I'm not going to put too much stuff. Jay Gruden came out this week and said that he's going to play the hot hand at receiver. I don't even know how that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ridiculous. Like, the hot hand at receiver. I'd like, what? These guys get like 6 or 7 targets a game. How are you even going to determine who's got the hot hand? It's ridiculous. Anyways, I agree with you on Doctson. I was high on him at the start of the week, but it's starting to get a little bit out of control. The guy saw 5 targets last week, and he played 84% of the snaps. They're not really throwing outside that much. They're using Chris Thompson more. Jordan Reed's getting involved. It's not that great a spot for Josh Doctson. So I agree. Deontay Thompson looks like he might be in a nice spot this week. Oakland's quarterbacks are injured. They got a horrible DVOA versus the pass. So I think it's another spot for Deontay Thompson, who's not really that bad a receiver. He's had a couple 100-yard games in the NFL. I agree, 3,700. He's a player I'm looking at. I love Marquise Goodwin. He returned to practice today. The only thing that worries me about that game is got a bit of a bad weather forecast right now, but that could change. So, and even if there's a little rain, who cares? But I like Marquise Goodwin a lot this week too. So those are 2 guys I'm looking to swerve off of Doctson. I was high on him at the start of the week. I might go full fade on Doctson now though.
What do you do with AJ Green if he ends up being like, if you can project him out to be like 30% owned in, like, let's say the Millionaire Maker?
Yeah, I think
go with it anyway?
I think for tournaments, I'm going to fade him, honestly.
Really?
There's so many ways Cincinnati can score with Tyler Kroft in the red zone, with Mixon. They're getting John Ross back. I just feel like there's so many ways Cincinnati can score. It's not guaranteed you'll find the end zone if they get up. It's risky. It's really risky, but I feel like for tournaments, it's okay. If you want to squeeze them in a cash game because you just feel like the floor or the upside is so good, I understand it. But I'm probably going to be looking down to maybe a guy like Mike Evans in GPPs. I like that, targeting that Tampa Bay Carolina game. No one's talking about Mike Evans, who's actually been pretty good the last couple weeks. If he ever hits 100 yards receiving, he's going to have a massive game. And I still like Amari Cooper. Buffalo's down another wide receiver. I know some people are, he hasn't been consistent, but, he's had like 5 or 6 bad games in a row. Why can't he have 2 big ones in a row? So I still like Amari Cooper at low ownership too.
Yeah, I prefer Crabtree to Cooper. I prefer that every single week. That's just the way that I like to play it. So I never really use Amari Cooper. I'm not going to start doing it now, coming off a week where he had 2 touchdowns. Yeah. That seems like a suboptimal spot for me to dip my toe into the Amari Cooper pool. But like other high-end guys, like if you want to play Funches instead of Benjamin, you're going to get a supreme discount, not only in price but in terms of ownership. Doug Baldwin is getting absolutely no love this week, and he's in a good spot against the Texans. You mentioned Mike Evans, like, yeah, if I'm going to get Mike Evans instead of AJ Green, I'm going to get 1/10 the ownership. Like, I'll take Mike Evans. Like, I'll bite that bullet and go with it. If AJ Green goes off, then so be it. Probably wasn't going to win anyway. But if I can narrow out and box out most of the field and Mike Evans goes off and Green doesn't, then I feel a whole lot better about what I'm up to. Like, no one's playing Pierre Garçon. Even like Brandon Cooks and Chris Hogan. Like, I know the matchup isn't great, but it seems kind of crazy that you're going to get those guys for no ownership. Jermaine Kearse is another one that people just don't like playing Jermaine Kearse, but he's like $4,800 and everyone wants to play Mohamed Sanu instead. Like, Jermaine Kearse is better.
Yeah, I mean, Jermaine Kearse is in a better spot because he's more of like the #1 receiver on his team, right? So Mohamed Sanu's not guaranteed. I mean, we could see, we could see this target thing with Julio pull over to another week and get like 13 targets and Sanu does nothing. So I definitely Jermaine Kearse on the radar. Pierre Garçon, again, I agree with that. He's not getting enough love. I'm not really in on the. I'll say one thing. I'm not going to roster any of the Philly wide receivers. I'm kind of surprised people aren't Alshon Jeffrey. What has Alshon Jeffrey done to be 6,700 this year? Carson Wentz not really great at throwing to the outside. If I was going to roster one, I'd probably take Aguilar. He's cheaper, he works better in the slot. I think it's a better matchup anyways. And I just think Wentz works better with the slot receiver anyways. So I'm not sure why Alshon Jeffrey's getting so much love. Definitely a play I'm not on. I think it's an easy fade.
I think it's just one of those situations with Eagles and with Bengals. Like, you really want to pick your spots. You either want to go all in or just find the low price piece of that game and hope that's the one that pays off. You mentioned Tyler Kroft. I'm in on that move. I thought LaFell would come in super low owned, but now with Ross back, I have sort of second thoughts about that. But even in the Philly game, like, I think that Ertz might go supremely under-owned, and that seems wacky. And maybe you go Wentz, Ertz, and Torrey Smith. And Torrey Smith's in a revenge game, don't forget. So we know he just needs one big one to break it open. So I would look for different pieces of that game. Like, I am just uncomfortable with Chalk Aguilar. Like, that's ugh.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. Yeah, Torrey Smith had like a 2-year vacation, so I don't know if he's mad at the San Francisco 49ers or not. But it's definitely, I mean, you could use him. He just takes one play, right? So, but Ertz, I agree on Ertz. I mean, we'll talk about tight ends, but he seems overpriced, so I don't think anyone's going to use him. But I agree. I'd rather have Ertz than Alshon Jeffrey. So,
and they're basically right around the same price. Ertz is a little bit more expensive, but Ertz has been significantly better and good every week.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't know why people are all of a sudden wanting to roster Alshon over Ertz when, like I said, Alshon just hasn't really done much this year, and Ertz is going off every week. So I definitely take Ertz in that comparison.
All right, let's switch to quarterbacks. Andy Dalton comes in at number 1. He is going to be the chalk guy. It's if you pay down, you use Andy Dalton. You pay up, you use Carson Wentz, and then people seem to be on their way with that. Other ones getting some love this week. They're number 1 and 2. Then it's Kirk Cousins, Tyrod Taylor, Cam Newton, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Josh McCown, and Jameis Winston. There's a couple guys in this spot. Like, Rivers, has a ton of start tags, but I think the people just paid down for Wentz and said, I like him, I like Cousins, I like Cam. I know you like Cam a lot. I'm surprised to see Dak Prescott so low and Russell Wilson so low in comparison. Like, I really like Wentz here, but I don't know. Like you mentioned, there could be weather in that game. This could be a game where Corey Clement scores 2 touchdowns, and then you're like, ugh, this isn't very good. Objectively, I really like Carson Wentz, but if he's going to be 30% owned, I think I might just try out Dak Prescott against the Skins. I know Norman's back, but why not? Or I just say, screw it, pay down for Russell Wilson, or the number 1 scoring fantasy quarterback on DraftKings this year who no one's playing, Deshaun Watson. I know the matchup sucks. I know they were talking about forfeiting the game and not playing, but maybe it's a good rallying point for this team. And it doesn't seem like Sherman's going to be all over DeAndre Hopkins. He doesn't line up on that side of the field. Like, if you want a Watson, DeAndre Hopkins stack and that hits, like, you win the week.
Absolutely. And, Seattle's offense playing a little bit better. It's definitely a GPP play I would consider if I'm making, like, say, 20 lineups. I'd probably try and get some exposure to it. It's going to be so low owned. I mean, I even talked up the Seattle defense as a play, and I still think they're a good play, but it's not like it's an impenetrable play where Deshaun Watson can't go off. Seattle's had trouble a couple times this year. They have played better late. They did lose Cliff Averill, though, and it is Deshaun Watson who's proven he can sort of produce against a variety of different opponents, right? So I understand that play. I think I agree with you on Wentz. I see people getting off him a little bit. Andy Dalton, for me, is just a complete fade at 57. Like, 20% own Andy Dalton just seems like a disaster waiting to happen. And I know it's the Colts, but I can't roster that. So Kirk Cousins is getting pretty popular too, and it is a good spot for him. I know I wrote up something a few weeks ago on Cousins. He really tends to do well in these underdog spots where he's like between like +2 and +7 on the point spread. He always seems to throw for 300 yards. The Skins can't run the ball, so it does seem like a high floor spot. But I think I agree. Like, Dak Prescott, he's going to be 4% owned. Maybe even throw another Dak, Ezekiel, or maybe just go with Dak and Dez. I mean, it's kind of like Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. Everyone's going to avoid it because, Josh Norman is back. not like Dez can't catch 2 touchdowns or they can't move him in the slot for a little bit. So that's another low-owned stack for quarterbacks I think you can think about.
I think I prefer the Deshaun Watson DeAndre stack over the Dez Dak stack.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, DeAndre's probably going to see less of Richard Sherman, and quite frankly, I think DeAndre Hopkins is a better receiver than Dez Bryant at this point. So one guy I'll just bring up that you probably know I like is CJ Beathard. I mean, again, we're talking about Marquise Goodwin. He's only 5,100. He's going to be like 1% owned. So if he runs in a touchdown, if he gets that long score with Goodwin, you're set because it's such a low-owned stack. So I like Beathard for tournaments a little bit. I'm going to have some exposure. Again, got to watch the weather, but if it's just a little rain, I'm not worried about it.
When was the last time you can remember that Brady and Breeze were on the exact same slate and no one is playing either of them?
Yeah, and it's a really short slate too, right? Like it's only 9 games, and we're like everyone's gonna fade them apparently. So of those two, I think I prefer Breeze.
Me too.
Yeah, I think like a Breeze Ted Ginn stack might work, or maybe just go with Michael Thomas. I don't know, but I think Breeze is the guy I almost wrote up this week, but he's definitely I think in play. I mean, I know Chicago, they're pretty solid, but it's on the road, and Mitch Trubisky's it's rookie quarterback in New Orleans, so I definitely. Drew Brees is a guy to take a look at.
Tight ends, Hunter Henry comes in at number 1 with 33 start tags. At number 2 with 29, we got Jordan Reed, who I don't trust, but seems like people are back in on the Jordan Reed train after one good week. Let's not forget that he left part of that game with an injury because he gets injured every single week. Chalk Jordan Reed has no real appeal to me. The Hunter Henry move I get, and I prefer that one. Tyler Kroft now has snuck up to 3rd in tags. He's $3,000. Then it's Jason Witten, Zach Ertz, Jack Doyle, Kyle Rudolph, Jimmy Graham, George Kittle, and then Austin Safarian Jenkins. Kittle and ASJ are two sort of polarizing ones this week. Kittle has 10 start tags, but 4 sit tags. Safarian Jenkins has 8 start tags, 5 sit tags. I kind of like going back to Kittle at low ownership against the Eagles after everyone was in on him last week. And if Kroft ends up becoming chalky for tournament play, I think he's just a really easy fade. Like Nick O'Leary is still right around that same price. Vance McDonald is out, so maybe if you're playing I guess that's primetime slate, so that doesn't make a difference. Stupid me. I'm going to say Jesse James could be in a decent spot there without Vance around. But I really like Henry. I don't care how chalky he gets. He's someone I'm going to play. But with Ertz being 5th in start tags, he has 4 start tag or sit tags that go along with him as well. But I think that's just like he's in my column under my cash play. But it's hard to make a cash team with $7,000 Zach Ertz if you play him at tight end. Is the move just flex Zach Ertz, get another low-owned, cheaper tight end to go along with him, because with the production, and then Davis pointed this out on the Thursday show, with the production that Zach Ertz is putting up right now, if he was a receiver, he'd be $8,500. So technically, he's still too cheap.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say you need to treat him like a wide receiver, and he's probably a little bit too cheap. I don't know if he'd be 85, but he'd be close to that. He'd probably be 8 or something like that. So I agree. I mean, it's definitely a play. I think it's more of a GPP play. But for me, again, Zach Ertz, he's probably going to be under 10% owned. So I think that makes him a pretty high consideration. I 100% agree with you at George Kittle. Eagles are good against covering the tight end. And this is something that most people I haven't heard much about, but they lost their best cover linebacker last week, Jordan Hicks. He's going to be out for this game. So it's a really good spot for George Kittle to go off here. And, that game last week with San Francisco and Dallas, it was so weird. It was just over from the very beginning. It was like San Francisco. It was kind of like last night's game where the offense was just going through the motions like for the last quarter. So as long as we don't see that big a blowout, then Kittle could be in a good spot here. So I really like going back to Kittle. I like the Hunter Henry play as well. I'm going to play him over Jordan Reed. Tyler Kroft's getting a little chalky, which worries me, and especially with John Ross back. So I'm not sure where I stand quite on that. But, yeah, those are kind of the plays. Austin Safarian-Jenkins is interesting. I don't feel like most people want to pay up for Austin Safarian-Jenkins, but he's been seeing so much of the red zone targets. Atlanta's not exactly their strength against the tight ends, or at least it hasn't been in recent years. So I kind of go back to him, too. I mean, O.J. Howard is kind of interesting, too.
I don't think he's interesting at all.
Yeah. He's interesting from the fact that he just seems to keep getting wide open, but we don't know how. And teams just keep forgetting that he's on the field. It's like Tampa Bay just lulls teams to sleep by throwing to Cameron Brate, and then it's like, oh yeah, O.J. Howard, he's in the end zone. So I don't know. He's 2,900. I thought he was gonna be like 3,900 this week, and I was just gonna fade him. But at 2,900, I don't know, maybe throw him in like a Carolina stack to play back. But yeah, he's not someone I trust because he could easily go for 0 points. But I thought I'd bring him up.
I mean, the Irish assassin Nick O'Leary is $3,100, and it's not like the Bills are getting any healthier. Charles Clay is not playing. I think I'd rather go with him over O.J. Howard. Around a similar pricing. I mean, I'd much rather play Cameron Brate, but he's more expensive. But almost like at quarterback, with Brady and Breeze being super underowned, it seems like Kelsey and Gronk are going to be super underowned this week at tight end. Is that because of the short slate? And it's really easy to kind of identify who the chalk plays are going to be. Is this the week just to go straight contrarian and just fade the public?
I think it might be, honestly, because I know I was working some lineups last night. I'm like, man, Gronk, like why aren't I even considering Gronk in this slot? I mean, he's going to be like 7% or like 5%.
He's not going to be 5%. He's going to be like 2%.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there you go. Even better. I mean, he's going to be really low owned. So. I agree. I mean, I feel like a tight end is maybe the spot with Ertz and Gronk where you can make up some huge ground, because we're talking about George Kittle and we're talking about Hunter Henry, but these guys could easily see like 3 targets each. So I think Gronk is a guy for tournaments. I think if I had to choose between Ertz and Gronk, I would go Gronk just because I feel like game flow might be a little bit heavier in Gronk's favor, and he's Gronk. But yeah, I agree. I mean, this is kind of a week with short slate. You can have more condensed, some higher owned guys. I mean, definitely make some contrarian plays in tournaments.
At defense, there seems to be a consensus building, but when you look at the price tags, then it gets a bit iffier. Like Cincinnati's number 1 with 28 start tags. That's 11 more than the New Orleans Saints, and it is 18 more than the Eagles. And those are the only 3 teams who crack double-digit start tags. And I like the Saints. I think they're in a really good spot here with their attacking defense. I wouldn't really have a problem using them in GPP or cash. But my favorite defense of the week doesn't even crack the top 10, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's the Chargers, right?
Yeah, I really like and a lot of it has to do with price. Like, the Cowboys are $2,200. They're tied for 10th in start tag. So it's Bengals, Saints, Eagles, Falcons, Steelers, Seahawks, Bucks, Vikings, Patriots, Cowboys. Like, in what world am I playing the Patriots defense over the Chargers defense?
Yeah, at the start of the week, I was kind of on the Patriots. Then we got this news about Hightower. Gilmore's banged up. I'm not going to touch the Patriots defense. So, and I kind of agree with you. I mentioned off the top, the Chargers, I could see them winning this game. A lot of it's going to have to do with their pass rush. So I think you might actually talk me into it yesterday, where I'm definitely going to have a little bit of exposure to them. I still like the Cowboys. They're going to be a little bit chalkier, but 2,300, they're playing really well up front too. They have a tough matchup though, because Kirk Cousins, like I said, he tends to pass well in these spots, at least put up some points. So. But yeah, the Chargers are in play. It's a tough week for defense too. I mean, people are paying up for the Eagles, but the Eagles' defense hasn't been that good. They give up a lot of pass yards themselves. The Chargers' pass rush is better, so I would pay down for the Chargers over the Eagles personally too. Cincinnati's pretty chalky.
I think if you can afford Cincinnati's defense, I think that makes sense. But I just see no reason. Like, the Chargers are 2,500, the Cowboys are 2,200. Washington has 4 offensive linemen that are missing, and Dallas has a good pass rush. Like, I don't give a shit how many points the other team scores, unless it's like 80, and then you're kind of screwed and your week's over anyway. But even if the Patriots score 30 points or the Redskins score 35 points, Kirk Cousins is not immune to throwing pick sixes. And, like, all it takes is just a bit of pressure. And if you put Kirk Cousins in a spot where he's throwing 40 times, why not go with Dallas?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of the philosophy I think you have to take this week, because there's no really good cheap team in a great spot. I think the Panthers are actually kind of interesting too. I haven't heard too much talk about them, but their pass rush is really gearing up. Luke Kuechly's back, so I want to say they're maybe like a safer floor play, but at the same time, I mean, you're saving so much money by going to Dallas and San Diego, and they have
San Diego.
One of these days, I'll get brainwashed into remembering that it's LA. But
you just need to pull the Feinberg, the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles.
Yeah, okay, I should start doing that, because that's probably a good way to do it. But I don't know. That team just belongs in San Diego. But I don't know. Is there any other defense that we should talk about? Because I feel like I said, I feel like the options are limited this week, and there's no one I really love. But that just is more reason for me to go with like a Dallas or San Diego.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the key here. I think you could kind of talk yourself into a case with Seattle's defense.
Yeah.
Deshaun, I talked about Deshaun Watson a little bit and how much I kind of like him in a contrarian spot with DeAndre Hopkins. But if it completely goes tits up for them, then, Seattle's going to be in a real nice spot. Although they're down defensive lineman. Dwayne Brown returns for Houston. But now Houston's dealing with this crap off the field with their owner, too. We saw how it affected Pittsburgh when they were in Chicago that week. Maybe it affects Houston now that they're in Seattle. I think that they're an interesting play. I don't really love them, but I think they would be like my 4th or 5th option of the week. But it seems like they're going to be relatively popular.
I know for me, for GPPs, I'm pretty much going to go either those two cheap ones we're talking about, maybe some Carolina, and I'm going to have Seattle because I do think it's still Deshaun Watson's a rookie. And if you look at Deshaun Watson's record, he's had some really soft matchups, like really soft ones.
Sure, but I can't hold that against him, though. He's putting up like 57 points in these games.
I know, yes. That's true. But this is a different spot. You got a Seattle team on the roll at home. So I think it's a good spot to use Seattle in GPPs, and they're not going to be that heavily owned either.
All right, Geoff, can you tell everyone where to follow you and check out your work?
Again, at the Fantasy Grind on Twitter. You can check me out on DK Playbook, DK Live. Doing updates. I got an NFL GPP article always up on the Playbook every week. And we're doing matchups breakdown with Pat on Thursdays. So and Pierce Dietrich. What did Pierce like this week? He liked Deontay Thompson, didn't he?
He did like Deontay Thompson. He got to the Google Doc before I did and wrote in Deontay Thompson, so I couldn't use him as my sleeper.
Stole Deontay Thompson from me. But yeah, you can check out all the DK stuff, and always hit me up on Twitter if you got a question. I always try and answer as many as I can.
And you do the lineup reviews too, don't you?
That's right, yeah. On Monday, if you ever want your lineup looked at by me to give awful suggestions, feel free to throw it up. But it's Monday mornings. It's after the fact, after everyone's had a bad weekend or a good weekend. I get some really good lineups sometimes. So yeah, definitely throw them out though. All
right. Geoff, you should, again, follow him at The Fantasy Grind on Twitter. You can follow me at ThePME. And don't forget, people, Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, myself and Tim Andacust will be live in Boston. Well, not quite in Boston, but at Gillette Stadium before the Chargers-Patriots game, taking your questions live and breaking down all the updated injury news for Week 8. So remember to tune in there. You can watch it on Facebook Live on the DraftKings Facebook page or on YouTube Live on the DraftKings YouTube page. Do not forget to do that. It's going to be a great time. Suggest everyone do it. And don't forget to download and rate and review the podcast and leave thumbs up where you have to. But, full disclosure, just win some money in Week 8, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.